Hello, welcome to eveiseasy. I am Sutonia. I thought I would go over my thought process and how I go about finding fights in Eve. First of all, we need to choose and find a ship for solo PvP. I like to break this down into 6 points. The first point is, what can my ship fight? What can I engage and kill? Pretty obvious one here. Choosing a ship which can engage a larger profile of targets is going to increase the amount of fights that you can take, thereby increasing the amount of potential fights you will get. But this isn't the only point to consider, and I think a lot of people fall into a trap here and only consider this point, which takes me on to point number 2, which is, who wants to fight my ship? What wants to fight my ship? You want to choose a ship which a lot of people are going to consider as a potential target for them. A good example of a ship that fits number 1 perfectly, but is horrible for number 2, is the Curse. Nobody wants to fight a Curse solo unless they have a huge advantage. Like you being, 1 kilometer from a gank hurricane, for example. Similar story to ships like the Sentinel. You're probably not going to find as many fights in those ships. I think Kill 2, now CCP Rise, used to really drive this point home by flying a Ferox during the time where Drakes and Hurricanes were really popular. Because the Ferox wasn't nearly as bad as people made it out to be, but a lot of players just didn't respect it at all. And Kill 2 got a lot of fights through that. Point number 3 is, what is the current meta? This sort of ties into number 1, but in 0-0 right now, that I'm recording this video, interceptors, frigates, assault frigates, mobile cruisers, those style of ships are what's really popular right now. So those are the most common ships you'll encounter while roaming. You want to pick a ship which can deal with them, and a ship that these ships want to engage, to maximize your chance of getting a fight. The 4th point doesn't really come into getting fights, but it's more, the 4th point is mobility. How fast can you travel? Warp speed. Being able to travel jumps quicker means you can cover more space and get to different regions quickly. If it's dead, if there's nothing going on, you can get out of that region and go into a new region where there's maybe, a potential fight for you. This also means, how likely are you going to die to a camp? What options do you have for splitting people up on a grid? What options do you have for splitting people up across different grids on a system, like warping to a planet? How likely are you going to catch some guy mining or ratting? The faster your ship warps, the better chance you're going to have of catching someone in a bell, in an anomaly. The 5th point is price and skills. Flying a cheaper ship is obviously better for you. You don't really need to consider that, but flying a ship which your opponents can engage with cheaper ships, or ships which require less skills, is probably going to influence the amount of PvP you can get. The chances of you getting an interceptor 1v1 fight, or interceptor versus a few frigate fights, is much higher than you're going to get, a command ship 1v1, or, a battle cruiser 1v1. And the 6th point is DPS. How fast can you kill a target? The faster you can kill something, the more chance you have of killing some guy than warping out before his friend's coming on you. The more chance you have of breaking someone's tank. If you don't do enough DPS, you can't kill certain ships. Another bad example of this is the Curse, because it doesn't do much raw DPS. I mean, you can shut down people's modules. It's still going to take you, a minute to kill a buffer fit Tech 1 cruiser, and by that time, someone else is going to come in and it's going to change the fight, and you're probably going to lose your kill. So in this video, I'm going to use a Kestrel as an example of this. So point 1, I can only engage frigates and interceptors, industrial targets, maybe some assault frigates, dictators, destroyers, pirate frigs, depending on which ones and how they fit, but mostly I'm kind of limited. But point number 2, everything wants to fight me. Aside from people who want to avoid PvP altogether, like industrial ships, or miners, that kind of thing, everyone wants to engage my ship. My ship is a target for everyone, essentially. And point number 3, I fit the meta really well. I can kill most frigates and interceptors, which are really common. I can't kill cruisers, obviously, but that's fine. Mobility, really good. In a frigate, I warp 5 AU a second. I go 2.8 kilometers a second with Microwarpdrive before heat. Pretty decent agility. You know, I can make it back to the gate in, you know, most camps really, aside from, you know, Daredevil, remote sensor booster hell camps. And I can travel space really quickly. I can, you know, going 10 jumps in a Kestrel only takes me, you know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Which is good if I'm in some dead region. Price and skills, my ship costs 10 million ISK. And, you know, people can fight me and engage me with similar frigates or interceptors which cost, you know, less than 30 million in most cases. Overall, this is great because people who value ISK are probably still going to want to engage me. And, you know, it only costs me 10 million if I die, which is a good bonus for me. And, number 6, DPS. My Kestrel does about 160 DPS with heat, I believe, which is above average for a frigate, especially with the range that I have of 15 kilometers. I can kill most targets before something heavier lands on grid. So the Kestrel is really underestimated. It actually does similar DPS to a dual ripping Cursus does at point blank range with neutron blasters. I noticed that this heretic was using Tech 2 light missile launchers because he was using the Tech 2 ammo against me. And he also has a bubble, so I know his fit is going to be really tight on CPU, and his fit must be pretty bad for brawling me down. So, I end up killing him. Finding fights in frigates is all about being aggressive and going to areas where you know there are a lot of people active. Since you have good mobility, you're unlikely to die to a camp, and active areas are more likely to have frigate support. I go to a pocket where there's 40 people active and end up killing an Ares first of all, which tries to solo me. I then end up in a fight with a Crusader and an Ishka, and I kill the Crusader and then warp out. The Kestrel is really strong, and a lot of people underestimate it. I know I've repeated this a few times, but the Kestrel is good, and people think it's bad. One of the reasons why carrying a mobile depot with you with a small armor rep and small hull rep is really evident in this situation. On this roam in particular, I go into an active pocket in Providence and I end up getting camped in by a remote sensor booster style camp with around 8 to 10 people. This is nothing new to Providence, this just happens, and when this does happen, you need to be as aggressive as possible and use your mobility to roam between the pocket that you're camped into to shut it down completely. I want these campers to feel like they're wasting their time. There's about 40 active people in the systems that I'm being camped into. So if they are going to stay docked up or 10 people camp me in, I'm going to waste 50 people's time in a solo Kestrel. And I want them to know that. So to increase the chances that they come looking for me, to increase the chances that I get a fight in here. So I end up finding some miners who didn't get the memo and I kill them. Killing miners isn't great PvP, but what it does do is it creates pressure for people to come in to fight me, rather than camp me in. After being aggressive between systems, I show up at a station and notice I'm getting probed. I don't know why they were probing me when I was at a station, but a cheater decloaks on me, I kill it, then I warp out when the support lands. Mistakes like these happen a lot when your opponents are frustrated with you, and you can tell your pressure is having an effect on them. Showing up at stations is a great idea in general because it makes you visible to the players in the systems and it validates you more as a threat. I then end up getting a fight with a Firetail. I'm able to kill it by cutting at range. The Kestrel has the best damage protection out to range of any T1 frigate. I'm in fleet with a covert Opsal that I brought in to check if the remote sensor booster camp was still there. I am getting 10% bonus to shield agility and armor for this fight, but it doesn't make a real difference in the outcome. Eventually, about 10 minutes after, I'm able to escape. These remote sensor booster campers spent almost 2 hours of their time. Meanwhile, I was able to get 7 kills. Trolling in local is also a tactic you can use to frustrate your opponents, but it has to be good, witty trolling. Don't just flame them or smack them. You'll give them the impression that you're mad, and it will probably encourage them to camp you longer. Whereas if you give off the impression that you don't care, and you're successfully shutting down and wasting 50 people's time, it'll motivate them to come and fight you to, shut you up. Or to prove you wrong. And that's the impression you want to give off. In this final clip, I take on a Saber. I noticed on Eve Kill that this Saber pilot uses a double medium shield extender fit, so he won't have range control on me. They also noticed that he seemed to have an unhealthy obsession with hail, which is the short-range Mimitar T2 ammo, so I decided to go for it. If you're ever in doubt whether or not to engage someone, looking them up on EveKill is a great way to decide. The Kestrel only costs 10 million ISK anyway. One of the best ways to learn is just to go out there and die. Every death you have is a learning experience. Thanks for watching.